Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I will be your host, Kay Suthar. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Make Your Mark podcast. Now we have Tami here. Tami, she is a success coach, an energy shifter, and speaker on topics of making better decisions and business growth. Tami guides her clients through and sometimes overwhelming prospect of starting a new business. Now, I know some of you probably know all about that. Now, she has an Amazon #1 best-selling book, You Already Made... Oh, let me say that again. You already made the decision. You just aren't happy with it. Is a guide on how to make better decisions or live the ones you've already made. From farm girl to corporate VP to CEO to our own business, Tami knows what it takes to step up and make significant changes in life and in career. Her mission is to liberate independent, success-minded professionals from the shackles of a corporate career so they can start and grow their own business to not only replace their income, but exceed it. Oh my goodness. Tami, I am so excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Kay. It's great to be here with you.
I've got so many questions to ask you, right? Because you've got so much experience, so much knowledge, right? From starting from scratch and building the business that you have today. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, I would love for you to share with our audience today how that all came about, right? Because it didn't just happen in the click of a finger, sure.
No, it didn't, as with most things. Yeah, I mean, I spent 20 years in corporate and I thought I was just going to continue to work my way up. And I thought eventually I would just be, an executive, CEO, CFO at some organization. And the further up I got into the organizations, the more I realized I didn't love the politics and what it required and how they wanted you to change and be what they wanted you to be versus what I felt in my integrity of what I wanted to be. And so I started looking at, okay, what else do I want to do? And I started working with a coach. I started working with an energy healer. And I realized that I had always called myself a mentor manager because I loved helping people figure out what their next step was, figure out what their next career path was, what they wanted to do, how they could advance and use their skill sets to get what they wanted. And so it was kind of an easy next step for me to jump into career and leadership coaching because I had a huge passion for leadership and had seen some amazing leaders in my corporate career and had seen some really bad leaders. And I wanted to make sure we had less of those bad leaders and more of the good leaders. And so that's where I jumped into my business was as a leadership coach and helping people with their career transitions. And the further I got into my business and trying to figure it out, trying to understand what to do, hearing all these different people tell you all these different things to try and what to do, and spending years just getting clients, but not as quickly as I wanted. And then something shifted and I finally understood, okay, this is what you should do. And these are why these things weren't working is because it wasn't the right time in my business to do those yet. And so I had more and more people start coming to me saying, how did you do it? How did you go from being a corporate VP at a Fortune 100 company to starting your own business and being successful at it? And it was actually one of my coaches who finally came to me and said, Tami, would you just go show these people how to do it? So a few years ago, it's when I made that transition and started helping more people making their transition from going from employees to entrepreneurs so that they could understand, okay, this is what you need to start with. This is what you need to do next. This is what you need to do next. Instead of spending years and hundreds of thousands of dollars on things that aren't quite right for where you're getting started.
See, okay, just in what you just said, oh my goodness, I've got even more questions for you, right? Because
Awesome.
You're already kind of dropping golden nuggets through your journey and kind of letting us know where you kind of learnt the lessons, right, to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that you said that while you were in corporate, you knew you wanted to be coaching people with their career, telling them what the next step was. How or what were you doing in the corporate world to realize this is where you want to be?
Yeah, great question. I mean, it took a little bit because when you have this process that you think, I started off as a CPA, I call myself a recovering CPA now, and I made some career transitions and, I was in finance and I moved to technology and I was the head of real estate technology for the third largest real estate company in the world when I ended up leaving corporate. And it was during those transitions that really helped me understand what my main skill sets were, what I was really good at, because I realized that it's not just the technical things of understanding finance and understanding technology that made me so good at my job. It was understanding leadership. It was understanding how to work with people. It was understanding how to motivate and inspire people to do better. It was being able to look at people's skill sets and say, I think that this might not be the right position for you, but we might have something else that will better fit. And then you put them in another position and they just totally take off in advance. And so like really understanding and being able to see that firsthand, that made me realize there was a skill set there that was beyond just the technical skills of what I had learned in school and learned through my career.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest things I'm hearing you say is you were very aware of what was going on around you with yourself to be able to identify that this is where you need to be. And not a lot of people are aware of that, right?
Yeah.
They go through day to day, their jobs, and just kind of doing what they have to do, being completely unaware and at the same time really, really unhappy, right? So that in itself is a skill of being aware of yourself and where you need to go next. So like that is amazing.
Well,
There's
thank you. And I'm sure,
mentioned.
I was just to say, I think it's a skill we learn, right? I don't think it happened overnight. It was something like I had to search within myself and ask people around me. And so if you find yourself in that place of like, what am I really good at? Start asking people, like, what do people come to you about? What is it that they really look to you for? And then you can start kind of honing what that is.
Do you know, that's so funny that you said that, because when I was, before I left my corporate world, right, I had a coach, and one of my coach said to me, like, go back to the office, right, and ask the people you work with three ways they will describe you, right, 3 words, right?
Yeah.
And one of the words that they all said completely shocked me because I didn't believe myself that way, right? And so it gives you a different perspective as to how people see you and versus how you see yourself.
Yes.
Right.
And it makes a big difference.
It does. It really does. And that is something that everyone, I think, should do, right? Because it's going to be a shocker and it's going to open your eyes up for sure. So that's pretty cool. The other thing that you mentioned as well is that you said as you kind of step away from corporate and you started building your business, you realized the things that you were doing and the reason why you weren't seeing success is because you wasn't ready for that yet. So how did you come from that realization as to, oh, I'm doing things the wrong way?
Some of it was through trial and error. And then I had one big kind of wake up call where I had gone through a program. I was in a program where I got my coaching certification, and they had offered some other programs as part of it. And one of them was, go create your Facebook ads and, create a freebie and then promote everything. And so I've been working on this for like 8-9 months and been putting it out there and trying to build my list. And, and I went to this lady after we got done with the program, and I was talking to her about working with her after the program was done.
Right.
And she said to me, we don't work with anyone that's not making at least $20,000 a month. And I wasn't at that point yet because in her opinion, you should not be running ads until you were making at least $20,000 a month.
Okay.
But yet this program sold all of us who were kind of newbies into this process. And that's part of the realization I had is, people are out there selling you things because that's what their expertise is in. And that's what they want to help you grow in. And there's nothing wrong with what they're doing, but you have to be the one who knows, okay, is that the right thing for me now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think people kind of get stuck in that whole, oh, they've done this program and that program and this program, right? Because it's sounding so good and that's what they need to do to get leads and to get customers. But again, one of your skills, Tami, is making sure that you are aware, right, of what's going on, how sales work, how people work, how business works, and really looking at where you're at, where your business is at, and seeing what you actually need to do to take the next stage, right? The next level. And so when you realize this, what did you do?
Yeah, great question. So when I came to that realization, I had to stop and really take a look at what is working for me and what isn't. And so I had to take a step back and say, okay, what are the things with where I'm at without like throwing, thousands of dollars into more programs, more ads, more spend? What can I do to really build my business quickly? And so I had to go back to the basics of some of the things that I had that really worked for me, the things that brought me clients, and go back to some of those foundations, start building my business that way to get to a point where then you can add in some of the other aspects of it. And I always believe in like doing one thing and doing it well, and then adding one more thing in. And too many times I think people are like, okay, I'm going to try it all. I'm going to be the expert at everything. And it doesn't work. So when we can focus on the one, I call them tactics, right? We got to have a strategy, our overall strategy of what we're going to do, but we got to have the tactics within that are going to be the things that bring us an income. And what tactic are you focused on at this moment to really help you grow and expand?
Okay, now I like that, right? So looking at the different tactics, because there's millions out there that you can choose from, right?
Yes.
But really knowing which one you should be doing, right? Now you help a lot of your clients figure this out. You work with them on this, right?
Yes.
So what are some of the things that you've helped with your client realization as to where they should start or where the next step is, right? With all this noise that's going on where we should be doing a million things.
Yes, we all feel like we should be doing a million things. We see other people and we're watching those influencers and we're thinking they're doing a million things. Why can't I?
Exactly.
And so where we start is, obviously we look at each company and each business individually to see where their market is and what's going to be the biggest impact for them, but also their personality. Like what are they going to actually go do? Because if I tell someone to like go get on the stage of couple hundred people tomorrow and they're like, I can't even speak in front of my neighbor, like, they're not going to go do it, right? And so we've got to build people to the right place for them. And so some things you can always start with, and I think especially when you're getting started, 99% of all businesses get their first clients from their network.
That's
and
right.
yet so many times we just like throw that out the window and we're like, we're not going to talk to people we know because we don't want them to think we're selling to them.
Right.
And the thing is, you're not selling to them, but they probably know people that are your ideal clients.
Absolutely.
And so when you can have that conversation, and we call it a giving and non-salesy way, that you are able to give and they are able to reciprocate, because people want to help. So if you ask for help, people like naturally are problem solvers.
Right.
And so when you ask like, hey, who do you know that might need this? People automatically start going into problem solving mode and like, oh, well, who do I know? Do I know somebody? And when you do it the right way, it doesn't come across as, we've all had those people in our lives who we love that, get involved in some like MLM or network marketing. And then they're like so obsessed and they think everybody should do it. And they're like on top of it and hounding every single person. And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being able to share your message, being able for people to understand what the problem is you're solving for people so that they're like, oh my goodness, I know someone who needs that. And then they want to refer to you. So starting with your network is always a great place to start. And then there are ways you can build and expand on that. We have a retreat coming up that we're going to be talking about how to 10x your business with other people's lists, and like 20, 30 different ways that you can do that by using other people's network that they've already built to build your business and expand your business. So there are a lot of different ways that you can do this, but we really want to focus on, okay, well, what's right for you with where you're at in your business right now?
Amazing. I love that. And so it sounds like, and I think you already mentioned, you customize it to each individual, each business, and then take it from there and take a look at what they need to be doing as an individual themselves, which is
absolutely.
awesome.
Because it isn't a one size fit all. Now, there are certain things that absolutely work globally, right? So there are certain things that we all need to get better at. There are certain things that we all need to work on. And so those we work on together, but we give people an individualized plan. Like, this is where you should be focused.
Mm-hmm. I like that, because again, there is a lot of programs, a lot of courses out there that is just tells you the exact same thing, right? You just follow it. And this is where people get disheartened, because they're like, it didn't work for me. Well, there's a reason for that, right? You need a customized plan. And so that is pretty cool that you actually do that and get to know the individual and help them on what the next steps are. Now, Tami, you've been doing this for quite some time now. When you've worked with your clients, what are some of the most common things that come up that are myths that people think that really isn't true, right? That you help them kind of break through?
Yeah. Oh, I love this. So, I mean, so many things. And so we could spend like a whole hour on just this. But I think some of the really common things, especially for people who have been working for someone else and now they're starting their own business, a couple commonalities I see. One is they are truly afraid to sell. And there's this fear around sales. And I can see from the look in your face, you're like, yeah. You've seen this.
I've had a recent conversation with someone, and I've definitely kind of felt like they're doing all the things, the operations and getting this done on the website, and they're not trying to sell.
Yes.
So I hear where you're coming from with that.
Yes. And we call that being behind the screen, right? Where you're like, you'll go get the website done and you'll go get a funnel and you'll go create stuff, but you don't ever put yourself out there. And so there's a visibility piece of it. And a lot of that comes in from fear of judgment. And they're afraid of what other people are going to say. They're afraid of other people judging them. And they're so stuck in the fear around that they won't even take a step. And so we work through, how do you get past that fear? And understanding that, you know, we judge people all the time, not intentionally, right? It's just part of our inherent nature. Yeah. And so, people get stuck in the perfectionism paralysis, right? You hear that all the time. Like, I want it to be perfect. And I always tell people, like, there is no such thing as perfectionism or perfect. There's no such thing as perfect, because what you may think is perfect is not going to be perfect in someone else's eyes, because we all see things from a different lens. Right. So you've got to just start with what you have, start with where you are, and put some things out there. So that fear of judgment, that fear of visibility comes up, the fear of sales, where, I've had to do reframing of this myself, where I always told myself, I'm not a salesperson. Like, I had a job at one point where part of my job was upselling current clients for a software company into new software. And I seriously was like, I'm not good at sales. I cannot do sales. Like, I constantly told myself this. And so I went into my own business and I still had this mindset that I'm not a salesperson. I can't do sales. I would literally think of like the easy car salesman that I didn't want to talk to.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, I feel like you can read my mind, Tami, right? Because I was exactly the same. When people were like, why don't you do sales? And I'm like, why would I want to do that? Like, people hate salespeople. I don't open my door to salespeople, right?
Exactly. You get a spam call, you're not answering that. I used to avoid the salespeople in stores when I would go in because
Right.
I didn't want them to try to sell me something. And I finally had a realization one day when I was actually in a store looking for something that I couldn't find what I was looking for. And I was like, okay, I actually need a salesperson to help me here. And it was that realization that I can say no. Like, they have no power over making me buy something. And I
Mhm.
think we're always so afraid to tell people no. And we don't have good boundaries ourselves. So we're afraid of other people imposing on us.
Do you know what? You just kind of hit the nail on the head there, right? You're absolutely right, because people don't like saying no, right? Not just to salespeople, but in generally, right?
Yes.
We don't like to say no. We want to say yes to everything, and all of a sudden, because you said yes to everything, you got bombarded with like a million tasks that you got to complete because you couldn't say no, right? So that is very true. So instead of saying no, we just avoid them and run.
We do. And it's sad.
Right.
And like, we have to get over that ourselves, because if you're in business, you're in sales, and there's no getting around that. Like,
Yeah.
you have to get comfortable, but getting comfortable with that sales is service. So that is one of the first reframes we do. Sales is service. And you got to understand that if you have something that's going to help someone else and you don't share that with them, you're doing them a disservice. I mean, why would you let someone sit there in pain when you knew you could help them? You wouldn't. But yet we feel like by offering it, because we put the value on ourselves and not the problem we're solving. And so you got to
Right.
take yourself out of it.
See, this is a really, really interesting conversation, right? Because I feel like there's so much work that needs to go on regards to mindset, right? Because we've got to change our habits, we've got to change the way we're thinking. It's a completely new way of living, right?
Yes.
And so I guess it's on an individual basis on how long it takes us to cultivate the business mind, the entrepreneurship mind. But what does the steps look like? Because it must be very, really, really hard for someone to change that. And I know, because not many people know this, Tami, but I used to be a police officer, right? I went from being a police officer to interrogating people to then learning how to communicate all over again.
Right.
Right? Because
Very
I
different
remember,
form.
right, I remember being at the back of the room events, right? I was an event coordinator, decided to leave my corporate and go into events. And I remember my team saying to me, go and talk to the audience, go and talk to the attendees. And I'm like, well, what do I say? Right? Because I came in the very beginning stage where I was just doing like the payment processes, adding information on a spreadsheet, right? That's where I started from. And so, like, well, what do I say? And they're like, well, go and ask them what they do, what they're looking for, if they're married, and, just get to know them. And so I was it was very literal to me. I was like, right, okay, I took a list with me. And I went up to someone, I was like, what's your name? Where do you live? Are you married? How many kids do you have? What do you do? How long have you been? And they were like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm doing what you asked me to do. They're like, no, you're not talking to them. You're interrogating them. Like, what's the difference? Right? And so changing that habit and learning how to communicate with people all over again took a while, right? So how do you then, or how are you able to help your clients, say if they came from that position themselves, right, and showing them, right, there's a different way of doing things, right? You can't do or transfer the skills that you carried on from corporate necessarily into business. So how would you approach that?
Yeah, there are some exercises we do and things to help people get outside of that comfort zone and have a different understanding of it. But I think a lot of it comes to, where did this come from for you, right? Like, where did the sleazy car salesman come from me? I remember I was in the store with my daughters a few years ago, and my daughter had gotten like $20 for her birthday. And she's like, Mom, I want to buy this toy. And I'm like, well, it's not on sale. And as soon as I heard myself say it, I was like, oh, this is my story, that I can only buy things that are on sale.
Mm,
And she had the money.
interesting.
It didn't matter. But I had to realize, like, growing up, I mean, I'm a farm girl from Michigan, and, we went shopping, like things had to be on sale if we were going to buy them. And that was just, my mom would just like shoot back to the sales rack. She's still that way today. I love her. She saves herself a lot of money. I won't say that, but she's, that was just the mind frame that she kind of instilled in me. Like, we don't buy things unless they're on sale. And so as I made more money, I'm like, does this make sense anymore? Like, if I want something,
Yeah.
can I buy it without it being on sale? Sure, I can. I mean, that all goes down to what do we really want? What are our needs? What are we doing? But the stories that we tell ourselves and where that came from, when we can understand that, then when we find ourselves in those situations where we're like, I'm not going to buy that program because they're not giving me a sale, be like, you know what? Do I deserve this? Do I need it? Is this exactly what I need as my next step? And if those are a yes, then why wouldn't you get it?
Wow. Okay. Right. That makes complete sense. And so, what are some of the other common myths that you have come across people into?
Yeah. So some common myths, that you've got to be persuasive in order to be good at sales, right? You've got to be manipulative and persuasive. And I think that, I truly believe that if you are authentic and you are transparent, and what you offer is truly going to help someone, there is no persuading. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, there's no reason you have to persuade somebody. They need, like, you can ask questions that's going to help them get to where they can say, yes, this is what I need, or no, this isn't what I need. And,
Mm,
I don't want anybody taking on clients that are not the right fit. So you have the
yes.
right to say to someone as well. I mean, I don't tell them they're not the right fit because that just doesn't sound nice. But I would always, say something like, you know what? I don't think my program is the right fit for you. I may have someone else I can refer you to that I think is going to be a
Yes,
better fit.
absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that people kind of miss out on, right?
Yeah.
Like, you might not be a good fit, and it's okay to say that, right? It's
Yes.
definitely okay to say that. But then why not just refer to somebody else that will be a good fit, right? And I think that's
Absolutely.
a piece that people completely miss.
They
So you're
do.
absolutely right there. That's amazing. Now, Tami, I know at this point people are probably thinking, oh my goodness, okay, I need to get in contact with Tami. I need to figure out what else she does, how she can help me with my business. So at this point, where would people go if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn or Facebook at Tami Jaffe. I also want to share a free gift with your audience, if that's all right.
Yes. Oh my goodness, we love free gifts. That would be awesome.
Awesome. So, for those of you who are just getting started, or even if you've been at this a while and you're just not getting that consistent income coming in the door, and you're like, ugh, what do I need to do? What am I missing? I want to give you guys my Jumpstart Kit, and you can get that at thejumpstartkit.com. And this is your corporate to cash Jumpstart Kit to help you make money without all the headaches. And in here, you are going to get so many things because I've just like compacted a lot of things into this that I know what you need when you're getting started, but you're going to get an understanding of how to get really clear on your offer, how to get clear on your numbers and understanding your numbers. Because as a recovering CPA, I thought I could just avoid my numbers when I started my business. And it very quickly realized that you can't. It is the key to your business. And so you also get a jumpstart on your strategy and on what strategies you should first be using, and even using, I'll tell you in there which ones you can use, like you'll use throughout, and which ones you'll just use at the beginning to help you grow your business.
Oh, that is awesome. Oh my goodness, it really does sound jam-packed. Wow. Thank you so much, Tami. Guys, all the links will be in the show notes below. So make sure, you go and check them out. Go and get that free gift, right? Tami has been so gracious to jam-pack so much in there. Go ahead, go and check it out. Go and connect with her, see how she can help you. Tami, before we come to the end of this episode, do you have any last words for our audience?
I just like to say, I mean, I think you guys, you're out here, you're trying it, you're doing it, and just stay inspired. Stay inspired by what you do so you can help others and inspire others, because you know, and this has probably been an inkling in your stomach, you're like, I meant to do this. I meant to take this next step. But you may feel like there's still something holding you back. And it's time to let go of that so that you can catapult forward. That
is amazing. Thank you so much, Tami. So many golden nuggets in such a short amount of time. Thank you for coming on the show. It has been awesome.
Thank you, Kay. It's been awesome being here with you.
Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.